AI is about to destroy Hollywood. Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say the same thing every other content creator does. VFX artists, the industry professionals, create some really amazing stuff. But AI can now allow those of you who have zero technical knowledge to create some of your own stunning VFX on a tiny budget. I'm Jack, I've been a VFX artist in the advertising industry for over a decade now, and I've worked with many of the biggest brands on the planet. And today's video is all about creating VFX shots with AI. I'll take you through the best tools and practices, share all of the prompts that I use, and break down each step of the process with zero gatekeeping. Whether you're looking to use AI for advertising or filmmaking, this video is for you. And if you do enjoy today's content, guys, make sure to whack a like on there for me, consider subscribing, and of course, ring that bell notification icon. All right, let's get straight into it. So for today's video, we're over on Hailuo.ai. Their Black Friday deals are running from November 21st until December 3rd, and they've got a bunch of great offers running within that time period. I'll put all of them up on screen now so you can check them out, and this includes 60% off for annual memberships. And switching over to my editing software of choice, which is Premiere Pro, you can see I have this shot of a cruise ship. And what we want to do is create some visual effects of a Kraken coming out of the water and dragging this cruise liner underneath. So to do this, we want to export a single frame from this sequence. Within Premiere Pro, it's really easy. We can hover over this camera icon. You can see it says export frame. And if we click on it, you can see we can pick from a variety of different formats. I'm just going to go for JPEG and get this shot exported. Back over on Hailuo.ai, if we go to the top left-hand corner, you can see there's a tab named video. So if we click into here, we are now within the video generation space. And you can see we have the option to upload a starting frame. So as you might have guessed, I'm going to go ahead and drop in the frame we exported of our cruise liner. And apologies if my voice sounds weird, guys. I'm pretty ill at the moment. I've got two very snotty children right now, and they've decided to pass on whatever they've got to me. So for the text prompt, we're going to go with a wide cinematic shot of a massive cruise liner gliding across the ocean. Suddenly, enormous Kraken tentacles burst upward, wrapping around the hull. Water sprays into the air as the tentacles squeeze and drag the cruise liner downward. The ship tilts, metal groaning. The Kraken pulls it beneath the surface in a dramatic high-energy motion. Ultra-realistic water simulation, intense atmosphere, high-detail textures, dramatic lighting, 4K cinematic style. And you can see if I open up this drop-down menu, we have the option to pick our video model. We can go with Hailuo 2.3, or we can switch over to Veo 3.1. And at the time of recording using Veo 3.1 through Hailuo is actually the cheapest method of accessing Google's video model. So I think what we'll do is we'll send off one Hailuo generation, and we'll also send off one Veo 3.1 generation as well to act as a point of comparison. And within our hypothetical scenario, let's imagine that this is a shot from a short film. So we've already shot the entire film and we're now in the post-production process of adding VFX to it. Traditionally, you might have to outsource this to a bespoke team, and you're talking very expensive CGI, which isn't feasible at the best of times. But if you're a small filmmaker or you're making an ad for your business, then going down the traditional routes is sometimes just not feasible because it is very costly. So this here can be a great alternative to still getting your work done and having a nice result at the end. So starting off with our Hailuo AI generation, the tentacles are kind of emerging from a place that I wouldn't expect, almost behind the camera. And we did say in the text prompt that we want the tentacles to come up from beneath the cruise liner. I'd say that the cruise ship itself is mostly staying quite consistent. I do actually really like the textures and that kind of glistening effect on the Kraken's tentacles. But I think some of the destruction on the cruise ship looks a little bit kind of cartoony. The water effects are looking pretty nice, generally speaking. And moving on to our Veo 3.1 result, this is clearly adhered to our text prompt a lot more closely. I love the way that the cruise liner is dragged into the water and the shadows that the tentacles are casting on the ship itself. We are seeing some moments of kind of warpiness happening, which does kind of kill the illusion a little bit. And I've got to say, I actually prefer the Hailuo generation when it comes to the texture of the Kraken's tentacles. And whilst the result isn't perfect for either of our generations, to achieve something even remotely close to this using traditional methods would cost a lot of money. And next we have this shot here within some kind of town. It looks like it could be taking place in Italy or France, somewhere like that. And what we want to look at generating is an explosion that comes from within that central building. Once again, to achieve this with traditional means, you're talking a lot of technical ability, and if you don't have that, a lot of money, because you would need various different 3D explosion assets that you'd have to composite, and you'd also have to do a fair amount of masking or rotoscoping as well. So once again, we'll go ahead and export our starting frame. Back on Hailuo, I'll go ahead and get that uploaded once again. And for the text prompt, we're going to go for a wide urban street scene with a central building. Suddenly, the building erupts in a powerful, realistic explosion with debris and fire bursting from the windows. The shockwave causes the camera to shake subtly. Panicked civilians sprint away from the blast, scattering in different directions. High detail smoke, dynamic lighting, and ultra-realistic destruction effects. Once again, let's send off a Hailuo generation, as well as a Veo 3.1, as well. So actually our Veo 3.1 generation has unfortunately failed here. I think this is probably down to moderation. Things like that are a little bit stricter when it comes to Google's AI tools, but we do have a result back from Hailuo 2.3. So let's go ahead and talk about the good and bad here. The kind of origin of the explosion and the destruction effects look genuinely really nice. Something about the fire effects is a little bit strange, and the way that the people on the street react as well is quite odd. It's almost as if they are being sped up. But the lighting on the explosion and the way that that is affecting the surrounding buildings is actually really quite impressive. And we do have that subtle kind of camera shake like we asked for. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and drop in any extra generations that I made after making this video to test the tools out further, just to show you guys if we ended up getting a cleaner result. And whilst I'm a little bit split on this generation, I think half of it is actually really quite nice and the other half is some strange things happening. The fact that we created this purely using AI and therefore would have saved a whole load of money is pretty impressive in itself in my book. And for the next shot, we have this nice piece of footage here being filmed from within an apartment looking out to the city. And what we want to go ahead and do is create a weather transition. So once again, let's export our starting frame, and back in Hailuo, we'll go ahead and get that uploaded. For the text prompt, we're going to go for interior shot from inside a modern apartment overlooking a city skyline. Outside, the weather shifts rapidly, clear skies darken, winds intensify, and a harsh winter storm engulfs the city. Snow blasts against the glass as frost and ice begins spreading organically across the windows, creeping outward in real time. Visibility fades as icy fog drifts between different buildings. Realistic lighting changes, atmospheric depth, and detailed environmental transformation. For this generation, I just wanted to go ahead and test out Hailuo 2.3, and we've got back some pretty nice results. So looking at the first generation, I'm not a huge fan of that kind of weather or lighting transition right at the start of the shot, where it looks like some of the buildings kind of move and shift over. We were really after a seamless transition. But for the second generation, Hailuo 2.3 has done really quite well. I love that time-lapse effect where we can see the shadows extending across the side of the buildings, as well as being able to see that weather front actually move into the frame and into our location. You can see as the city itself becomes really misty, the windows start to frost over. And those lighting changes actually revealing what the inside of the apartment looks like as well. Yeah, there's quite a lot of nice detail in this generation, I have to say. And for our next shot, I want to go ahead and try out a slightly different technique. Here, we're actually going to take our starting frame and use Nano Banana to create an asset to be embedded in the scene. So by adding an extra step to the process, it gives us a bit more control with our VFX shot generations. So let's go ahead and export our starting frame as usual. And within Hailuo, if we go back to the home page by clicking on the logo, we can go down to the tab that reads Agent. So here, if we hover over this plus icon, we can go ahead and upload our image. And of course, we want to select the starting frame we exported from Premiere Pro. And what we can ask the Hailuo agent is to create us 3 images with Nano Banana and 3 images with Seedream 4.0 in a 16:9 aspect ratio. So we have the comparison between the different image models. And in terms of the text prompt, we're going to go for low angle cinematic shot, looking up at a towering skyscraper in a modern city. A colossal monster clings to the side of the central building. His enormous size dwarfs the frame, emphasizing its overwhelming scale. Hyper detailed texture with realistic lighting, subtle dust and debris falling from the building where the monster grips it. So let's go ahead and send off this generation and see what we get back. So starting with the Nano Banana generations, I think this one here is pretty nice. The monster's face is a little bit strange. I can't tell if I like that or don't. This one here, the monster's sort of half merged with the building. That's not really working. This one, we can't really see an awful lot of the monster itself. Now these, I believe, are the Seedream generations. And I've got to say, I really like this particular image here. Very scary looking creature that we've got back. Here, texturally, things have gone a little bit strange, and a similar story with the 3rd generation. I think that the best generation we got back was our first one from Nano Banana. So if we hover over this download icon, we can go ahead and click download without watermark. And heading back to the video generation space, we can go ahead and upload our starting frame, which of course is the image we just created of our monster. And for the text prompt, we're going to go for handheld shot from street level, looking up at a massive monster gripping the side of a tall skyscraper in a modern city. The camera movement is frantic and shaky, as if filmed by a terrified onlooker. Sudden jolts, unstable framing, quick focus pulls. The giant monster slowly turns his enormous head, surveying the city below. Debris falls from the building where he holds on, dust drifting downwards, dramatic sense of scale, realistic lighting. And what we'll do is we'll go ahead and send off a Hailuo generation, as well as a Veo 3.1 generation as well. Okay, so we have back our generations. Unfortunately, the Veo 3.1 generation has failed, so I went ahead and generated an extra Hailuo 2.3. So let's go ahead and take a look at the first generation from Hailuo. So I think some of the building destruction is a little bit strange. It's almost like the building turns into like a fluid or something like that. It's strange because some parts like the glass falling actually look pretty damn good. And I love the way that this monster gets right up in our face. And I did say earlier on that the Nano Banana generation, the monster's face looked a little bit strange. Well, Hailuo's done a good job of kind of reverse engineering that to have the monster's face and head actually look really quite impressive, especially when it gets right up close to the camera. I'm loving the style of camera work as well. It's exactly what we asked for. Handheld, shaky, frantic, and it does feel like it's being shot on somebody's phone and they are just terrified looking up at this monster, as you would be. We do, however, have a slight issue with the lamppost kind of going through the monster's face. So something a little bit strange happening there. Bit of a shame with that. And taking a look at the second Hailuo generation, whilst I don't like this one quite so much, again, there's some similar issues with the destruction of the building. I love the camera work here. The fact that it goes out of focus and it kind of struggles to get that focus matched again on our monster is really nice, and it does add a level of depth and realism to the generation. And obviously the video model doesn't really know what our monster looks like when we get up close and personal. So when we zoom in, it's having to create a face for the monster kind of off the fly. And I've got to say, I really like the design that it's made for this monster in the second generation as well. Yeah, we've got back some really nice, impressive generations there from Hailuo. Veo 3.1, didn't want to play ball. And moving on to our next VFX shot, we have this really nice footage of a pretty amazing mountainous landscape. And what we want to go ahead and do is create an alien spacecraft which is floating in between these mountains. So I think we'll export a frame about midway through because I like the composition at this point in the footage. And back in the Hailuo agent, we're going to go ahead and upload our image. Here it is, the frame we exported from Premiere Pro. And for the text prompt, we're going to go for epic landscape shot of a mountain range. Behind the mountain crest, a massive alien mothership hovers silently. Its scale overwhelming the scene. Design is minimal and sleek, with smooth dark surfaces and subtle glowing accents. Atmospheric haze and low clouds partially obscure the base, emphasizing its immense size. Dramatic lighting casts long shadows across the mountains, creating a sense of awe and tension. Ultra-realistic textures, grounded environmental integration, cinematic composition. Seedream seems to be behaving pretty strange. I'm not sure why it's not using my image reference, but thankfully we have got some nice stuff back from Nano Banana. This one here, the textures are kind of lacking a little bit on our alien spaceship, but this shot here is actually really nice. I do love the way that the ship is behind these mountains. It really gives you a great sense of scale. And the final generation from Nano Banana is pretty similar, just got this kind of muted color grade in it, which doesn't match our existing footage. So I'm going to go ahead and download the second generation without the watermark. And returning once again to the video generation space, we want to go ahead and upload the frame that we just created with Nano Banana. For the text prompt, we're going to go for drone shot moving smoothly and majestically towards a massive alien mothership hovering behind the central mountain crest. Atmospheric lighting bathes the scene in dramatic shadows and soft highlights. Ultra-realistic textures, cinematic composition, and a sense of awe as the drone approaches the imposing mothership. So looking at our first Veo 3.1 generation, when I asked for a drone shot, the model took it very literally. Still pretty cool though. I like the camera movement and everything like that. But of course, if we were going to be using this in a short film, you probably wouldn't want to have a drone in the center of your composition. However, with Veo 3.1's second generation, things are looking much better. Feels very similar, we just don't have that drone in the center. And also when we approach the ship, it has this kind of cool glowing effect applied to it. I say cool, I can't really work out if I like it or feel like it's just a little bit cheesy. I definitely prefer the approach before we see that glow happening, and of course it isn't something that we asked for. That's just the way that Veo 3.1 seems to have perceived the text prompt. Maybe it thinks that adding the glow will make the ship look imposing, which in fairness we did ask for. We've got a couple of spots of strange warping on some of the crests of the mountains. I'll zoom in so you guys can see that clearly. Hailuo has created an interesting result actually. I do like the way that the spaceship elevates and that shadow moving down the mountain range. Didn't really expect the ship to have that type of irregular shape. And there seems to be a little bit of a lack of texture on the asset itself. So whilst it's definitely not terrible, probably not the generation I would go with. And for our final VFX shot, we have this really nice footage of a tropical looking beach. And what I think we're going to go ahead and do is use Nano Banana to insert a volcano into this scene. So we'll export our starting frame as usual. Back in the Hailuo Agent, we'll go ahead and get that uploaded. Here's our beach here. This time we're going to say create me 6 generations using Nano Banana because Seedream just doesn't seem to be playing ball today. And that way we can just hedge our bets. For the text prompt, we're going to go with on the left side of frame, a towering volcano rises from the dense jungle, partially shrouded in mist. The volcano has realistic textures with rocky slopes, some greenery and faint smoke drifting from the crater. Warm sunlight illuminates the beach and jungle, casting natural shadows, while the composition balances the peaceful beach with the imposing presence of the volcano. High detail, cinematic, photorealistic style. Let's see what we get back for these generations. This here working really well, really nicely integrated into the landscape. I think pretty much all of these generations are doing a really nice job. This one here, a little bit too hazy for my liking. Nice amount of smoke cover in this one. But I think I'm going to go ahead and get the first generation downloaded. I do really like that particular one. So in the video generator, we'll go ahead and upload our starting frame once again. And for the text prompt, I'm going to go with drone shot. On the left side of the frame, a towering volcano erupts violently from the jungle, spewing lava, ash, and smoke into the sky. The eruption is powerful enough to cause the drone camera to wobble slightly, conveying the immense force. Glowing lava flows down the volcano slopes, while ash and debris scatter across the surrounding jungle. Send off our Hailuo 2.3, and we'll go for a Veo 3.1 as well. So looking at our first Veo 3.1 generation, I do really like this. I love the way the camera kind of turns to take in that view of the volcano. I think texturally we have got some kind of strange things happening, and the explosion itself, at least the fire part of it, looks a little bit kind of, I don't know, flat and cheap. Not exactly what I'd be after. The way that the smoke is behaving though is pretty cool, I've got to say. The Hailuo generation is just kind of strange. It's almost behaving more like a time lapse. I think the way the smoke kind of like dissipates across particularly the jungle is quite cool, but generally it just doesn't really fit our use case. And the second Veo 3.1 generation, much the same really, the same kind of issues as before. Whilst there is some parts of this generation that are pretty impressive, it's not quite blowing me away. I still think if you're into making your short films, this could be a great way to add a higher production value effect to your piece without having to fork out for a full-on CG artist. I think we really are kind of pushing the tools to their limit with these kind of asks, but it is handy to put one of these quite ambitious generations into the tail end of the video, I think, so that you guys can really see the good and bad when we're using AI to generate our VFX. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. If you have enjoyed it, make sure to whack a like on there for me. If you're new, consider subscribing, and of course, ring that bell notification icon so you never miss any future content. And I'll catch you in the next video.